Hello, hello. Welcome back to the final episode of Debut Album January, at the very least for now. Um, Today, we are going to be taking a look at the album that started all of progressive rock, if you ask many people. Today, we are taking a look at In the Court of the Crimson King by King Crimson. Now, King Crimson is one of those progressive rock bands that is sort of infamous for their multitude of lineup changes, so I find it important for this video to implement or to establish the lineup of the band on this album. On guitar, you have Robert Fripp, the only member of King Crimson to show up on every single King Crimson album. He's been part of King Crimson from the beginning. If you listen to interviews of him, he considers himself the guardian of King Crimson. He considers it an entity, not a band. Okay, buddy. You have Greg Lake on bass and vocals. Ian McDonald on basically everything else that isn't drums. And Michael Giles on drums, and lyricist Peter Sinfield. Now, this album came to be this group, I guess, sort of came to be, it formed out of the ashes of another group called Giles, Giles, and Fripp, where Michael Giles and his brother Peter joined up with Robert Fripp, and they recorded one album, which was released in, I believe, 1968 or 69. Haven't heard it. I know that one of the songs on this album got one of the songs on that album got re-recorded for this album. I know what song it is. We'll get there when we get there. But I believe there was some sort of falling out where Peter Giles left, and then Michael Giles and Robert Fripp sort of teamed up with three of their other buddies, and then basically they went about making this album where they basically said, if it sounds too commercial, make it weird. And they did, and they created an entire fucking genre, which, was dominant in the 70s and is not so dominant now, unfortunately. It would only last about a decade in terms of full-blown dominance of the market, especially in England. But the first song, 21st Century Schizoid Man, all-time classic. I'm serious. It's like 7.5 minutes long. It has one of the most interesting riffs. Not only is it, a riff, not only is the riff being played on guitar, but it's also being played on winds and a bit of mellotron, bit of bass as well. So it's just so immaculate and like super distorted. It doesn't sound like it's recorded well, but I feel like that's what they were going for. Because again, they didn't really want any of this material to be the most conventional thing, like it's just beautiful. And then Greg Lake comes in with these beautifully distorted vocals, lyrics talking about, general civil unrest and the Vietnam War and just all of the shit that was going on in the late 60s. And this song only has 3 verses, and one of them is after like a big break, a big instrumental break. It's glorious. Also, the album starts out with a little bit of crowd noise, so it builds your anticipation of like, what the fuck am I going to listen to here? And then that riff just smacks you in the face, and it's very much like In the Flesh on the Wall, in a sense. But The Wall would come out 10 years after this. So, I guess In the Flesh is very much like 21st Century Schizoid Man in that sense. But again, it just smacks you in the face, and then, after the first 2 verses, it sounds like they're going to do the riff again, but then it just dissolves into this almost free-form jazz, sort of jam for, like, the next, 5 minutes. And it's just amazing. It's immaculately done. And it, again, it doesn't sound like it's recorded well, but it's definitely recorded well. Like there's saxophones and Mellotron. Mellotron is a defining aspect of this album's sound, frankly. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful, and then it comes in, just when you're starting to get sick of the controlled musical chaos, the riff comes back in, and Greg Lake sings us out with one final verse, and it sounds like they're about to, and then they do the riff again, and it sounds like they're about to explode into another jam, but then the song basically falls apart in a controlled fashion. I don't know how to explain the end of this song. It's just so immaculately done. It's beautiful. Mwah! Fantastic. And now, I Talk to the Wind. That is the song that was previously recorded by Giles, and Fripp. This song is definitely the most conventional off of this album, but it's not the most conventional because it's like 6 minutes long, and I'm not complaining about that. It's a very, very nice 6 minutes. There's it starts off with flute, and it's got these, lyrics where it's just like, hey, am I crazy? Am I just talking to the wind here? Right? Because at one point, the person singing the song goes, I'm on the outside, looking inside. What do I see? Much confusion, disillusion, all around me. And it speaks to the civil unrest of the late 60s, and it's fantastic. It's very good, very good song. It's kind of a ballad a little bit, and it's I can't really. It's definitely not a love song. Like, I feel like if any other lyricist had this, or any other band had this, even a prog band, it might have become a love song. But if the Doors had this, it would definitely be a love song. But it's cool. I like it. I like the flute. Love the use of Mellotron. Love how sort of mellow Greg Lake's vocals are on it. I genuinely just love the song. I love the album. There's really only one bad patch on the album. So, it's a big bad patch, but it's tolerable. I don't skip it. But we'll get there. And then, I Talk to the Wind very cleanly transitions into the side one closer, Epitaph, which, it just, after the very calm, I Talk to the Wind, it just you just hear this song explode with Mellotron and very intense drums, and it's just insane. And once again, speaking to the civil unrest of the late 60s, it's a common theme here. I don't necessarily think this album is a concept album, but it definitely has the energy of one. And it's a great song. It's like 8 minutes long, and it starts off calm, but it builds, and, there's not really, guitar is not really super dominant on this album, but this album is still very clearly rock, and not soft either. There's moments of softness on it, but it's just insane, how much raucous energy this carries, even without super prominently featuring guitar. Mellotron is very, very heavily used on this song, and it's and Greg Lake's vocals. Again, this is where I think Greg Lake did some of the finest vocals of his career, which is insane, because I think this is the first major thing he was recorded on, and it's, again, Ian McDonald is just the mastermind behind this song, behind most of the album, frankly, and it's just a glorious, glorious song. Again, a lot of these songs are hard to explain. I couldn't didn't even think of much to write down, didn't think I needed anything to write down, because I've heard this album many, many, many times, and it's a hard song to explain, but it's just amazing. It's just amazing, and it concludes side 1, and you're like, man, that was awesome. And you flip it over to side 2, and you get Moonchild, which is 2 minutes of an actual song with a similar energy to I Talk to the Wind, and then 10 minutes of Mellotron ambience. This is the big bad patch on the album. Even if I did take down notes for this, that's all the more I would have written down. It's just, again, after the 2.5 minutes of song, which I don't even know what the fuck it's about, probably something relating to civil unrest, and once again, it's definitely not a love song. But, like, if you just listen to this, you're just like, there's 10 minutes of just basically nothing of substance. It's a cool tech demo for the Mellotron, I guess, a little bit. And there's, 1 or 2 guitar notes from Fripp, and some bass and a little bit of drumming. But again, it's nothing to write home about. It's just kind of here. I don't necessarily hate it, but it's not. I don't necessarily look forward to this when I listen to this album. I look forward to 4 of the 5 songs, and the thought is, once I get to this point, my thought is, I've listened to the first 3 and I like the last one, so there's no sense in skipping. So it's kind of nice for the first 2.5 minutes. The remaining 10, not really the most interesting thing, to me at least. And then we come to the closer, a 10-minute song, The Court of the Crimson King, the title track. Holy shit. Again, this song returns to the energy of Epitaph, and it's just crazy. Again, it's just crazy. Again, much like Epitaph, it's hard to explain. I don't even know how I would have taken notes for it. I don't really need notes for this album. It's just insane and lovely at the same time, and terrifying, and all kinds of things. And it's just nuts. The one negative thing I will say about this song is that it kind of has 3 endings. Or not kind of, it has 3 endings. So it ends, and then there's a couple seconds of silence, and then there's some flute notes, and then it does the Mellotron ending again, and then it stops, and then there's like these, weird, airy sounds at the end. And so the album kind of ends 3 times. Again, kind of weird, but I honestly kind of like that aspect of this song and of this album. Go buy it. Go fucking buy it. Buy it on CD at the very least, probably vinyl if you're super, super serious. This is one of very few albums I do want on vinyl. Because, again, vinyl is really fucking expensive, and you need the right equipment, otherwise it's gonna fuck up your records. And then I believe I should touch on why or where, different members of this band would go after this album. Robert Fripp and I believe Michael Giles would stay on King Crimson. Michael Giles not permanently. He didn't do much. He had a couple of solo projects, and later on he would join the 21st Century Schizoid Band, which was made up of several members, several former King Crimson members, mostly from the first 4 albums. Robert Fripp would obviously continue the King Crimson name with various degrees of accuracy. Greg Lake would go on to form the greatest progressive rock trio of all time with keyboardist of the Nice Keith Emerson and drummer Carl Palmer. And they would form Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and they would make their debut album just a couple of months after this album was released in October of 1969. Ian MacDonald would later go on to form Foreigner. I believe he would be on a few more King Crimson albums. Don't know if he made it to 74. He didn't. He definitely didn't make it past that. But he would go on to form Foreigner. And then Peter Sinfield would work with various prog bands, and such as Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and a couple former members of Yes, through the years, and beyond the prog sphere, he would work with Roxy Music and Celine Dion, of all people. Those are just two notable ones that I saw in my brief research right before making this video. But that's pretty much where everybody ended up afterwards. That's, this album is a significant portion of their careers. For a few of them, it's the most famous thing they ever did, specifically in the case of Michael Giles, and maybe Ian MacDonald, but, maybe Foreigner, you could argue, but people don't think Foreigner. Different members of that band, maybe they do. I don't know. I don't really listen to Foreigner. But I would like to, that's where I'm going to leave it. Go buy the album. Oh, I need to touch on the album cover. I don't own this album, sadly. I want to. It's just one of those ones that's weird to find. It's a striking album cover, and it was made by a dude in his 20s, and he had like some sort of cardiac problem a couple of days after he completed it, and he died. I forgot his name, I'm sorry. But again, it's just super weird, and so this is the only album cover that guy ever made. That's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you all very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to leave a like on it. If you have something to add, please feel free to do so in the comment section down below. I'd be glad to read it. If you want to continue along my musical journeys with me, please feel free to subscribe. And if you want to hear me talk about something other than music, I have a podcast with two of my buddies. It's called Dorkies. I will leave a link to the most recent episode of that in the description down below. And if you want to hear what I happen to be listening to that day, you can follow me on Instagram at Sean_Heaster 1979. I post a 15-second segment of a song on my story there every single day. And with that, I would like to thank you all very much for watching, and remember to stay weird and keep jamming. See you in the next one.